So I'm Justine. I'm South African living in Spain, a long way away. And yeah, I used to be a graphic designer and then I moved into product design, all self-taught pretty much. And this is also where my love for design systems come from, because to learn from graphic design, learning how to create and build products, I needed some sort of reference. I didn't really do any studies or anything, was in a company where I can actually learn product design. And Material UI was the first one I stumbled upon, and pretty much just using it as a reference. And then Atlassian came along, and there were many more design systems or referencing sites that I discovered and used as reference to build these products or apps that I was playing around with. I eventually got an internship, which was really cool, because then I got stuck into actually working with developers and really seeing how it works within working with managers and different stakeholders to make apps. And that's definitely, design systems helped me grow as a product designer from the start. And I think that put me in a good place because I've always had this systematic thinking. I think as I continued with my journey, and eventually found a full-time role.
Wow, that's really cool to hear. Are there any resources that helped you learning about design systems?
Yeah, so it's definitely just mainly looking into reference sites first, going and exploring how buttons, the sizes of basic things I didn't know at the time. So it was, what's the correct size for a button? What is the standard? What is like the padding? And then I learned about tokens, and I got super obsessed with tokens and wanting to integrate that into my work. And eventually, I actually found myself working more on the components and building different UI libraries rather than actually focusing on the user experience. And this is, in South Africa, it wasn't really a role, design systems, or maybe it is, but it's not as big as Europe. So it's very difficult to even find a job that's got design systems in South Africa. So moving to Europe definitely opened up a lot of doors. Some of the things that really helped me was definitely joining communities online. And that's where I found it into design systems. And I guess it would also Config had different things that were going on, but it was mainly through into design systems where I found different people and connections where I can learn, especially articles. So like Nathan Curtis, who I found it through into design systems, his articles have helped me a lot to understand better. Because I think there's one thing about like a UI library and building a UI library, but also understanding the different parts of a design system. And early on, this isn't very clear. So there's a little bit of like a gray area between what is a UI kit, what is a design system, and it's definitely more about the people than the design, I've realized. And that's something I also enjoy, working more with the people and less just focusing on, the deep user flows. And that definitely tickles my fancy more.
Yeah, that's so cool to hear. When it comes to transitioning from product design to a design system designer, any advice you can give to people, like where to start or what journey to follow? Also, I was wondering, because some people maybe just do it because there are not enough jobs in product design. Is it a good idea to then transition to a design system designer?
That's definitely something that I've seen. It's almost like design systems has become more of a trend, I'd say, where there's such a saturated product design market at the moment, where design system jobs have popped up everywhere, especially after, 2 years ago and the variable release from Figma. Since then, because that is kind of when I was transitioning, or just before. Yeah, I pretty much like left my job and then went and looked for a job, and there was literally like maybe 5 available at the time. And I was like, whoa. And I was fortunate enough to land my first proper role. And this is definitely something that I have seen just product designers wanting to just jump into the design system space, not really understanding that it's about the people. It's about maintaining these massive libraries. There's a lot more going on in the background rather than just making pretty components. I think if you really enjoy making components, maybe it's not the right fit, because a lot of the time you're not just building components. Like I like to say, it's about 30% where you're actually building components. A lot of the other time is meeting people, speaking to different stakeholders, making sure that the libraries are maintained, working with different teams, auditing. There's a whole bunch of different processes and things that you need to take into mind. And I think this is often overlooked because design systems are often seen as just components. So I don't advise, if a designer's not that passionate about building components, or they're just looking for it as a job because of the market, I don't advise going into design systems. It's definitely a stressful environment, I'd say, in any company that you go to, because it is a lot of teams wanting to rely on you and your libraries so that you don't block them. And it's a lot of stress when something breaks, and it's a lot of having to get constant buy-in and time and trying to fit the component new releases into other teams' timelines, and a lot of documentation. There's a lot of time to give towards that, where you're actually designing a very little bit of time. So if you're a designer that likes to design and design user experiences, I don't think it's the right fit.
Yes. When it comes to applying for design system roles, are there, like, what kind of skills are companies looking for? Is there any way people can stand out with specific skills?
I can definitely give more on the approach that I took, because I applied and I landed a role with no experience actually working on a real design system. And the approach that I took was understand tokens. And I actually used Token Studio to learn at the time, because Figma didn't have the capabilities. And I spent a lot of time wrapping my head around that sort of part of design systems. And I think any design system that I have seen has included tokens. And this was definitely, especially the first role I had, the design system that I was contributing to didn't have any token structure. So this was definitely a gap that they were looking for. And I think a lot of the companies or startups that are now wanting to invest in design systems, they are definitely looking into that, or it's a really good skill to have that you can provide and bring to the table, so that they can have this like systematic way of working. Definitely tokens, and understanding that is one of the skills. I think documentation is also one, but I wouldn't just rely on documentation, because a lot of companies don't value it, even though it means a lot to designers and the organization. The people who are looking at your portfolios aren't going to be blown away by the amount of documentation that you're writing. So definitely crafting the design, making the design look good, having a UI like eye to an approach to your work, and also understanding metrics. Like, how are you going to measure what you're building? So these are definitely things that I think should be included, or when you do apply, to have this included in your case studies.
We are posting many job openings or job positions on LinkedIn and into Design Systems job board. And whenever I check out these positions, so many companies are looking for people who have experience with design tokens, documentation, and accessibility. So that's definitely skills you should have when applying. The cool thing is that we have many sessions covering all of these topics at the Design Systems conference. And you are going to give people tips how to create design system portfolios, because there's pretty much no content out there, right? Like, it's really
I
hard to
haven't found
find.
any. Yeah.
It's really hard to find any resources, any examples. So can you briefly give us some tips how a good design system portfolio should look like? Should there be a case study or something else?
I think it should always start from the case study. So you can actually land a job with just a case study if it is good. You don't need a fancy UI kit. You don't need a fancy product that you've built from scratch. It all starts from a component. And I think if you can articulate your design decisions properly and showcase your skills with just that one component and dive deep into how you are building it, how you're thinking about it, what you learned, what you took away from it. If you are documenting those steps, you'll have a fully fleshed component case study that you can show. And you can use that to actually apply for jobs. You don't need a fancy website with all these multiple links. You don't need 100 different projects. So I think always start from your case study and really dive deep into your skills. Also, if you've worked on a component before and you have skills that you know how to do, for an example, using tokens, but you didn't have the opportunity to implement the tokens or theming into the company or project that you're working for, definitely add those skills in. You don't have to always rely on things that you've had experience on, but show what you know and what you can do. This is definitely an approach that I took. I've never worked on tokens before, but I was like, hey, I know how to use tokens. I know the basics. I can implement them. Give me a chance. And I showed it through my work. And this was definitely something that was needed. And if I left that out, I probably maybe wouldn't have gotten the job. I don't know. Maybe there would have been someone else. But definitely start from that. Always, another tip is always to consider the different stakeholders that will be looking at your case studies. So it's a recruiter who doesn't know anything about design. It's designers who you'll be working with, and it's hiring managers that are interested in metrics and how you're actually making impact in the company. So if you can cater for these three different personas, you can definitely make a really strong case study.
So it is important to know about design tokens, documentation, accessibility, tracking the design system, and probably the ROI of a design system, or to communicate to stakeholders that the design system has impact.
Definitely. I think it also depends on that component. Like if I'm just using a component as an example. So if you are building one component, to include that accessibility, how you're going to document it, who you're working with, it's always important to add in the people that you worked with. Where did you cross over? What were the failures of that? What did you learn? There's a lot of different things that also impact the decision of if someone's going to hire you. And that's like micro interactions. If you understand the craft and quality of a product, of something that you are designing, if you are understanding and implementing the tokens and have a systematic approach, always like showing this through videos or GIFs or something always makes a big impact as well.
Nice. Thank you so much. I cannot wait for your session at the Into Design Systems conference. It's called Design System Portfolio Tips and Tricks. So we will get more tips from you. We'll get a template from you. And yeah, it's going to be amazing. Thank you so much, Justine, for joining us and giving us so many tips today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity and also inviting me. It's very nice to chat to you.
Very welcome. See you at the conference.
Thanks. See you there.